Step out into the open air and claim your freedom waiting there.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Coffee in the Corral. I have a super awesome surprise for you today. We have a guest on our podcast, Christine Baird.
Baird.
Baird. All right, first mess up of the day, folks. Christine Baird.
Take two.
Thank you. You know what? It's good. You got to laugh right at the beginning.
Hey, I got the clap.
It gets the gibbers out, right? Christine Baird is here with us today, and you are going to be so impressed, amazed, and inspired when you learn about all of the things that this woman is doing. When did I meet you? I met you a few months ago at, was it 1 Million Cups of Women? Oh, no.
No, I got a hold of you after you talked at a chamber meeting.
That's right. Okay, the networking breakfast. We didn't actually connect there, but she saw my flyer, and then we met for coffee, and my mind was just blown when she told me about all that. This lady is a go-getter, okay? If you think that I am like a go person, this one, she's taken it to a whole new level. So I'm really excited to hear from you today. Thanks for coming out.
Oh, you're welcome.
Christine Baird. I will never get that wrong again.
It's so peaceful out here.
Oh, awesome. We're sitting out here. We're next to the corral. The chickens are behind us. They're being quiet right now, so that's good. Sometimes they get really loud. How are you doing today?
I am doing really good. Really excited.
Awesome. Tell us, Christine, a little bit about you.
So I, as of last year in April, owned 2 daycare centers, and I sold one to free up time. I also mentor online in the childcare world, so I have abovethestands.com. Then I also just became a children's author based off of the daycare center. So I have books coming out about a squirrel on site. That's crazy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it does crazy stuff to the staff, and we just can't make it up some days. What goes on in the world of the squirrel, and it all started during COVID.
Oh my gosh.
I also did over 200 videos during COVID in the childcare world, and I give tips. So I am on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. I also have other businesses that were in other brick and mortars that were inside of each other. So I've been working on that too. But I'm lining everything right now. But my life wasn't always like this. Back in the day, we were in Austin, Texas, and I had an in-home daycare center for 4 years. Okay. And we realized that our kids did not know what their grandparents looked like on my husband's side. So my father-in-law and mother-in-law lived out of state, and they're my grandparents' age, because my husband, they had when they were in their late 30s, early 40s, and my parents had me at 23. Okay. So my parents are 70, and I got my in-laws who are my grandparents' age. We realized my kids did not know them because they don't FaceTime. Oh. So we lived in Texas. We moved up to Missouri so we could have the kids' relationship, because relationships are a big deal, especially in the childcare world, and we wanted them to have a relationship with them at the time they were in Oklahoma. Okay. So we moved. So I shut down my daycare center. When I got to Missouri, that was where the struggle really started. Oh, that's when I took a year off trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I tried working for someone. I lasted 4 weeks. I told my husband, this is not for me. I'm used to being in charge. I feel like the licensing rules are different. And that was one of the huge turning points, is when I realized every state's licensing rules for childcare world was different, and kids are not all protected.
Oh, wow.
So when I opened my first center 11 years ago, I thought, wow, like I'm learning a lot. And I even asked him, where's the rest of your rules? Because in Texas, they had so many. They were the top 10 in the United States for protecting the kids, but Missouri was lower. And as the years have gone on, they've been improving, which is great, but we're still not where we need to be at. Then I realized, well, if these 2 states aren't the same, then we've got 48 other states that are not the same. Yeah. So what happened was I kind of let it settle and stuff, and was working my daycare centers, and I ended up with 2. And the next thing you know, I went to a business conference out in Nashville, and that's when I really realized I'm not using my purpose. I'm just sitting here. Like, I wrote down all my gifts on my paper. My husband's next to me. He never goes to me with classes, so I was shocked. He was next to me. I'm like, well, what's your gifts? And he has nothing written down. And I'm like, dude, you play the French horn. Come on, let's go. You got this. And I got this whole list, and I realized I had maxed out again. I get bored when I max out. Okay. And so that's when I'm like, I really need a mentor. I had lost my mentor that passed away while I was doing the centers. Okay. And I realized I was missing that big component of having that mentor to help me. So after that weekend, I assigned 2 mentors that was at that training in Nashville and came back, and I wrote a huge business plan for all 50 states to protect all the kids.
What?
Yeah, so that's where above the stands became, because above the stands means above the standards. There's minimum standards in every state for licensing rules, but I want everyone to go above the minimum standards. So that's how that got created.
Trying to make them all even out.
To make them all even out.
Safe for kids everywhere.
So over the last 4.5 years, I have created the book, which is going to go towards that. So anytime money comes in for the book, the children's book, Scary Gary and the Super Sock, it's going to go towards me traveling. And they're teaching me to speak so I can go into legislation. So I have a mentor for that. I just picked up another one because I do have another brick and mortar that the books will be in that I'm setting up.
Okay.
And so like I have this huge master plan, but I can't do it by myself.
Goodness. Wow. Okay, so you've got all of these things that you're...
Yes.
Like this, your vision is ginormous. It literally covers...
They call me a visionary.
Okay.
I've definitely been labeled by the mentors as a visionary because I see farther out than most. And if I make a mistake, I just fix it and move on. I don't even think about it because at the end of the day, I learned a lesson from all my mistakes. It does not matter what it is. And even sometimes when even if you lose the money, there's a way to get it back because I know that it's coming. I know that it's, tenfold. It's going to come back to me as long as I keep working my business.
Wow. So your mentors, since your vision is so huge, are they like, do they break it down for you? Like, okay, here's how you're going to, here's your steps to making this happen. Or you said you have several mentors, so some of them help with different things.
So like my first mentor I had was the one I wrote the business plan under. And so then I went and found one that taught speaking because that one didn't teach speaking. So that's when I learned formulas to speak.
Okay.
Because I can go do author visits, which is another way to bring money in so I can hit the mission of fixing the licensing rules and legislation. So like my other mentor, I did, to answer your question, like, so the mentor that I did for speaking, I went and talked to her. Many people would recognize her. She had been on Oprah. And she even said to me, she goes, you're like my other 2 that came to me. She's like, set up your safety net. She goes, because once you go speak, you have to have a safety net so you can get in the people that are your tribe. So she's like, set up your safety net. So I had to set up my social media safety net. So I just did that in the last couple months. So I've got someone working on a website so we can sell the products for my boutique coming out with a book in. And also I have socks, and there's a sock that goes with a book. Like I have all these networks that I work with to build my brand.
Okay.
And then I got my person to drop all of my TikToks and my videos and stuff on Facebook, and then I've got Instagram. So I've got someone working on that. Then I have another person for me to do training so I can mentor in the childcare world because I have over those 200 videos, and then I have content that's still flowing out there. So what they're doing is setting me up to set up trainings. So when I do these trainings, that money also will go back in for me to advocate in the childcare world.
Wow. Tell me how you got this passion for this advocacy for the childcare world. When did that start? How did that start?
Well, it's always been there, but we had an accident happen. Well, this is a very sad story. I'm going to tell you in advance because this could be a trigger. When I was in Texas and I had my in-home daycare center, I was one night had to babysit for my neighbor who kept going into false labor. So we used to tease her all the time. I watched all my neighbors' kids when I had my in-home daycare center. I was licensed for 12 and I had staff.
Okay.
Well, one night I was sitting on her couch and I was reading, and I turned the news on. I never watched the news for background stuff. We had a lady get arrested for a baby dying in her care. To find out she was in the neighborhood next to me. I knew her. I about fell off the couch. That was a traumatic experience. When you know someone, your acquaintance with them, and now you have a baby, and then she's in jail for life because the stories didn't say, but she was not following the licensing rules. Bottom line, 6 weeks old, I think they was 6 or 8 weeks old. Family went back to care. Family put the older child into a center, put the baby in the in-home because it was cheaper. It's more expensive to have a baby in a center than the older child. So they were looking at their budget instead of thinking, okay, the older child can talk, I'd put him in the in-home and put the baby in the center because there's people around. So that family lost their baby because she said the baby fell off the couch, which they're saying no. then later on her story changed and her daughter was homesick that day and the daughter was playing with the baby. And she's saying the daughter did all of the damage to the baby with the bilateral fractures and the brain bleeds and all that stuff. That was very traumatizing because that's a provider that you expected to follow the rules and to find out there was no pack and play, there was no crib for the baby. The baby should have never been left on the couch. So when that happened, and then
he worked for you, or you knew
I just knew her because she had in-home daycare in the neighborhood next to me.
She had her own daycare.
She had her own daycare, and I would see her at the association meeting. So that was, and she's still in jail to this day. It's like 12 years ago, 12 or 13 years ago. She even tried to get it overruled because she's like, I didn't do it, but the negligence was there. Whether she did it or not, there's that negligence. This family lost a baby, and you don't want that happening. So when I went to my mentor's house, after I did that training with her, I decided to keep signing up with her. I had a lady from Oklahoma come up to me, and she said, we need you. And I said, what are you talking about? She's like, my nephew just lost their baby in in-home daycare. And so I was just like traumatized. And she's like, because I was telling them this, my mission and what I vision and my values and what I see and what needs to be fixed. The lady in their in-home, the older son had been there for years. And then they had this baby, and so they didn't think anything of it. Mom was a nurse and everything. They had gotten in trouble by licensing. They were supposed to have a sign on the door. Licensing did not contact any of the parents. This was in Oklahoma. Did not contact any of the parents. It probably wasn't part of their rules. They didn't have to. She was supposed to have the sign up. She took it down. They didn't know she was in trouble. Anyways, a couple weeks later, the baby ends up passing away. It was shaken baby syndrome. But when mom came to pick up the baby, mom was a nurse, so she already knew something was wrong with the baby, and she already knew. So that was, and there to this day, they're still trying to fix those rules. So we need people out there that understand, especially since I've done both. Since I have a center, I've done the in-home, I understand. And sometimes the rules are a little bit different depending on the environment and how many kids you have. So after she came to me, that was really telling. I was like, I'm in the right space.
Yes.
This is what I need. And every once in a while, I have someone message me, and they're like, we need help with this, this, and this. But the goal is, like, if you like kids, that doesn't mean you have to be a child care provider, stay home with your kids. You have to have that self-regulation. So the goal is to get the right people in the right positions to do the right job. Because not everyone is meant to be a teacher.
Right.
Not everyone is meant to work with kids. You can love kids and have kids, but sometimes it's just not right for you because there is a whole nother level to it. And a lot of people don't realize that. It's just like when you hire staff. We have a whole nother level. Like, I've had girls come in, they're all gung-ho, they're going to be a school teacher. 4 weeks in the center, and they're like, I've changed my degree. Because it is. This is a lot more. And we do joke. Sometimes I do joke that my center is birth control. Because you have all those babies, and yes, they can be cute, but when they're not cute at 3 a.m. in the morning, and they're crying in the middle of the night, and you're not sleeping. And I always joke, this is my best job ever. My kids are grown up, and I get to send them home. They come back to me. We get to play, send them home, but they don't wake me up at night.
Right.
So, it's a win-win in my world. So.
Wow. Do you have kids, Kristen? You do?
Yeah, I do. I have a 13-year-old boy and an 18-year-old boy that's about to go to college at Oklahoma State.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So how long have you been here then?
We have been here 12 years.
Wow.
Yeah, we moved in south of Austin, Texas, where I had the in-home daycare center. I was the regional rep for the state. I put on workshops, and then I would do the state conference with them.
Wow.
So it's just, I've always wanted to be involved. And so I feel like all my experiences over the years are just starting to add up. And me picking up my mentor 4.5 years ago was the best thing that ever happened.
And it's just, it's beautiful because I love how you're just like, it just flows and you're like, oh, this is the next right thing. And this is the next right thing. And I feel like if we're all paying attention in our lives, like that's what happens. Like life opens things up. Like the next right door we're supposed to go through is there if we're looking for it and we're open to that.
Yeah, and one of the things that most people don't realize is, like, when I was in Texas, I got into the Institute of Children's Literature. So this is right before we transitioned to Missouri.
Okay.
So when I was in 5th grade, I won Young Authors. I got to go to a college. I got to sit with people to critique my work. Now, 5th grade is kind of a funny story. Something about a locket, and I don't know. Me and my mystery. So it's like the mystery of the locket or something. I still have it. I probably need to rewrite it, but I was laughing about it. But the descriptions were there and stuff, and I was on the right path.
Yeah.
So I got in the Institute of Children's Literature. I had an illustrator author end up being my mentor. She's out in Oregon. Wow. I did message her recently and like, I know this has been years, but you're not going to believe this. My last assignment was to get published. Never did it. My book is based off of my live video about the squirrel at the daycare center. But this squirrel is all about adventure. And when I write in that book and I talk to other kids, one of the sayings I say is always go on adventures. Adventures bring experiences. Experiences uncover your gifts.
Wow.
So if you don't, and so I go under C.G. Baird. So like, if you don't do experiences, how can you build and grow? That's like the biggest thing. I want, just like in the daycare center, you want them to build and grow. So this first book was called Scary Gary and the Super Sock. This is the day the squirrel stole the sock off the fence. My worker is in it. Her name is in the book. She is the one that literally drove in that day when I took her class for nap time. I'm subbing in her classroom. She comes down the hallway. She's laughing and she's like, "You're telling the parent." I'm like, "What am I telling the parent now?" And she's like, Drayton's sock got stolen by a squirrel. As I drove in, it was running across the fence to the sock. And I'm like, okay, now number one, his mom is your cousin. So you could tell her. And she's like, nah, you're doing it. She's not going to believe me. So I ended up telling the mom, we were all laughing about it. And then I did not know. I've been looking for years for an illustrator. Remember, I already got previous stuff written. I'm supposed to get published, never did it.
Yeah.
Connect with an illustrator locally, and he's laughing. I went through my 5 manuscripts that I had pulled from my live videos, and I'm telling him about this crazy squirrel. And so that one is done. And the cool thing is, sometimes things fall in your lap. My book is going into Spanish.
Wow.
We found, and when I met with the translator in a local school here, what was really interesting is there's a gap. There's a gap in that school from the parents to reach their kids in English or Spanish, because the parents don't know English, but if they don't have the Spanish children books, how are they going to read to them?
Yeah.
So what we decided is my book is going into Spanish, and then the Spanish is also going to be translated into English. So what's going to do is we're going to do a value pack where you have the English book and the Spanish book, and I'm going to have worksheets that are Spanish-English to integrate for the parents to interact with the kids.
Beautiful.
Because when I started talking to her, I did not know until I had that whole conversation with her, there's a gap, and we could actually use my book to decrease the gap, bring in money, and still fix the licensing rules.
Wow.
So, like, I would never thought, if you told me that 12 years ago, I would just laughed. I would have thought, that ain't gonna happen. So when I go back and talk about experiences, that squirrel, we did it in the squirrel's perspective to show how you can go on adventures, and everything's an adventure, and perception is the key. Everyone's perception is a little bit different. The squirrel's perception is really funny. He thinks Ladina's his arch nemesis. He thinks her lipstick is power, we call it the red power of paint. Like he thinks all this crazy stuff because he's on this mission to get the squirrel sock, get that sock off the fence. Yeah. But it all starts because he sees bags on their feet, and he thinks they're socks. Give the kids superpower because he watched water play earlier that day, which really did happen. And he thinks they're shooting water from their fingertips. So he thinks this sock, has this power. He can shoot water from his fingertips. So his imagination is just going with this adventure.
That's awesome.
So, and then right now we're illustrating the next book. We already had a layout. This one's called Scary Gary and the Lost Treasure. And this really is another book based off the daycare center. My students thought I had geodes on it. They were digging up my playground at the daycare center, and we were like, what is going on? You guys I'm gonna get in trouble.
Right.
Licensing's gonna come out and be like, what is going on? I have geodes? I don't know. So I did research, and to find out our town has a geode mine closed up downtown.
What?
It used to be a touring place for geodes. So me, being me, and smart aleck I am, ordered geodes off of Amazon Prime. and the kids got geos, and we started hiding them because they were breaking over these geos, but they weren't. But I wanted to show, well, this is what really geos is.
Yeah.
Now they have the experience of touch, feel, see.
Wow.
And so we did. So like for a month, I don't know if geos appear on my playground. And that was my school agers. And then a month later, so this book is also another event. So we put 2 events in one. A month later, one of the school agers' siblings was a preschooler. He decided I had a money pit on my playground. So here we go again. They're digging up my playground. And I'm like, what is going on?
They're hiding treasure.
Yeah. So I like, well, number one, if we had a money pit, let me tell you, I think if I would already been out there getting that money. I would not be inside working.
You're like, where is it?
So anyways, I go to Mom and I'm like, what is going on? Now he thinks I have a money pit. And she goes, oh boy. The documentary Attic Island, where they start looking to save the military base on this island because everyone's gone, the military shut it down. There's gold coins on the island. So he decides that I've got gold coins or something on my playground. So they're digging them up, and Mom goes, it's my turn. And I said, it's your turn. She goes, I'm buying diamonds. So she went on Amazon and we bought fake diamonds. They're like this big. They're different colors. And so we decided when they were behaving that we would drop diamonds on the playground. So sometimes 1 or 2 would show up. The kids were finding diamonds for like a month. So now we got Scary Gary and the Lost Treasure, where it's not me, it's the worker Ladina. She is hiding diamonds because of the kids, because they think we have a money pit and we don't. But the squirrel, during that time, because we set it in the fall, he's hiding his nuts. So he thinks it's a super nut now. So he doesn't understand because now he's on another one of his adventures on my playground. But it's just about them understanding every experience is building on to the next big thing you have coming. And your win is always around the corner. And if your outlook changes and you realize that, there's no failure. It's all a building on top of each other. It's habit stacking. It's finding the correct habit to get you where you need to be.
Even when you say like making mistakes, like you look at it as like, these are just lessons I'm learning.
Yes.
These are important lessons along the way.
Yeah, and we're going to fail. We're going to make mistakes. And that's what life is all about. We're going to have our waves of ups and downs.
I mean, we really don't learn without trying.
Yes.
And then when we try, we're like, oh, wait, not that way. Let's try a different way.
Exactly.
It's having that resilience. So what keeps you going? What gives you that resilience that you're able to just keep moving forward even when things are difficult or you're not sure or, things get hard? Like, what is
I was very lucky. I played softball for many, many years, and I'm trained in fast pitch. So I grew up in a sport that was disciplined. I was a pitcher. I had to learn my other the pitches for, So when you get trained by college level and you get trained when you're young, all the way from 6th grade to your senior year, and I lived in camps, and I was part of a team like basketball and volleyball as I was younger and growing up, you learned that like, it's okay to mess up. You kept trying. If I gave up on pitching, I wouldn't be where I am today. I didn't play college ball because of medical. I had an offer and I turned it down, but I played with the best in the area that won the World Series twice when they were 13 and when they were 18.
Wow.
I didn't play when I was 18 because I was burnt out. Politics played a factor, and I was like, you know what, it's okay. But you know what happened? Years later, I got picked up in Texas, in Dallas, and in Austin. I taught fast pitch. Like, I fixed a girl. I walked this experience. I ended up giving lessons was a fluke. I walked by a fence. I looked at a girl. She was pitching wrong. I looked at the mom. My Ethan, the 18-year-old, was a baby. And I said to her, ma'am, could I please fix your daughter? And she said, what? I said, she's throwing that wrong. I could fix her. And she's like, please, my husband's been trying to figure this out. And then so I fix her, and she looked at me and she goes, how do you know? I said, I'm trained. I lived in camps. This is what I did. That was my passion when I was younger. And so I don't mind giving back and teaching. So I did that. Her husband came and found me. We're in Austin, Texas. Not even like 5 weeks later, I'm up to 5 girls.
Wow.
Like it just...
You weren't even looking.
I wasn't looking. It just fell in my lap.
You saw a situation, you're like, you know what?
The same thing happened in Dallas. I was working. I played on a co-ed softball team. I was just new in from Grand Rapids, Michigan. our company had a team. Then this guy introduced me to his daughter's coach, and she was like, and that was at the time we were transitioning from Dallas to Austin. I'm like, I'm moving, I'm so sorry, but they realized I could pitch, and so I came out and helped. But like, that just fell. It shows your experiences do help you get where you need to go, and doors will open, but they won't open if no one knows what you do.
Wow.
You have to put it out there into the universe.
Yes.
Because if you never talk about it, how are you expect it to come to you? True. It's not going to. True. So that's when I realized when I look back now, like, I'm on the path I'm supposed to be. And sometimes you don't realize that, right? But I feel it now that I'm where I'm supposed to be. Huh. Yeah.
That's incredible. I love that, because like, even with, doing softball to now you're doing all of this childcare advocacy, and you're going to change all the laws. You may not would have ever pictured that taking you here, but like, you are able to look back and go, but it was because of my training in softball that I'm able to keep, to not be scared of mistakes and not be scared to try and to get better and better. Because I can imagine to get to the level that you got to took a lot of work to get there.
Like every day.
And a lot of practice.
Yes.
And a lot of wake up, like, here, I'm back at it again. And it's like, that's, especially being an entrepreneur.
Well, and the thing is, like, I threw in the basement during the wintertime in Michigan.
Oh my!
I threw in a basement in this, like,
explain that to us. How
cement basement. I mean, like, you walk down the wooden stairs, and our basement was long enough for me to throw. It was kind of open. Just pray I didn't hit the water heater.
Did you throw into something or to
No, my dad caught me.
Oh my God!
And so, like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like,
serious.
Yeah, like, it's winter time, and I would throw in the basement, and you know what? You break one light, you ain't breaking it again.
So you learned to
you learn to keep it low. You learned because I didn't have room for error.
Wow.
It was all about mindset and focus. And I even told my dad, even during the games, I never hurt anyone except for his one friend. Oh my gosh. I told him, I'm like, dude, he can't come anymore to watch me. I am like, he is so freaking loud, but I am very good. But I was trained. I was trained that if you walked a girl, it's okay. Like, looking back, I rarely see my failures. I see my accomplishments always over my failures.
Wow.
Even if it's a few accomplishments compared to like what I had, it doesn't matter because I know that I'm here because of all that. So like that stuff when I was in a sport transitioned over into the workplace and into the businesses and all that stuff because of my discipline and understanding. It's okay. I failed all the time when I was younger trying for softball, so it's no different in business.
Right. I mean, I feel like that in itself, Christine, could be a class, a workshop for entrepreneurs. Like that mindset right there. Like, I mean, you could talk for 2 hours about that because that is part of this struggle. And that's part of the thing that I struggle with, even with my, nonprofit that I started last year, is like just the tenacity to keep going at it when it feels discouraging and when it doesn't feel like there's 1,000 doors opening, and when you have to keep putting yourself out there. And like, of course, at least I would like to just be like, oh, like people are like, oh, this, and then they run with it, but it doesn't happen like that. And you really do have to keep showing up. And maybe it would be to change the entrepreneur mindset to be more like practicing. Like I played softball when I was young, and I did not at all get to the level. And I ended up being the pitcher by mistake, just not mistake, but it wasn't what I wanted to be. I wanted to be shortstop. That was like my favorite. Yeah. But the pitcher, something happened. She got sick. And so the coach asked me to pitch. And I remember I was crying and I was mad. And I told my dad, I do not want to pitch. I thought pitching was stupid. I wanted to be the shortstop. But there was nobody else. And she was like, she thought I was going to be the best at it. I couldn't figure out why. So I was like, my dad's like, just try it. And if you don't like it, you can quit. So I tried it and I fell in love with it. I was like, I love being the pitcher. But I didn't play anything close to what you did. But I remember like, okay, if I could set my mind to that, like I had to practice a lot because I had never pitched before. Even for that small amount of time that I did, like, oh, that's just a whole different mindset. Like you just have to practice a lot. Yes. You have to keep showing up. So maybe it's that. Like you look at your whole life as every day, here you are, you're practicing, you're learning everything instead of looking at like, oh, this was a failure, this was good, this was bad. It's like, no, I'm just practicing, I'm learning, I'm getting better. Yes. And the more you practice, the more you get better, right? Yes. And so, wow, my mind's blown. I needed this conversation today because I was like, Christine, she inspires me, but I don't know how to for one, to get to a level of where you're at, and for two, I'm like, that's how she got there. She just kept pushing and didn't quit. And your outlook, like you said, is everything. I mean,
that it is. And like I said, like, because of my experience, and then people find out what I do and they understand me and stuff, and they start asking more questions, stuff just falls in my lap. So I built my following during COVID. So I have a following. So
even COVID wasn't terrible. Like you,
COVID actually is when I got in trouble by my mentor because we were 5 days out. We were in Mexico, 5 days out from the country being shut down. It was me and 12 other women. So my mentor was one of them. I had already came with my business plan. Now, remind you, I had already done some of her other courses. So I did Game Changer with Todd Stottlemyre, who was the Blue Jays pitcher, who won the World Series. His dad was the famous Yankees coach, pitching coach. So I trained with Todd on mindset, right? So I get to my training out in Mexico. When you get homework from a coach, you do it. There is no, you don't tell them no.
Right.
So Christine's trained. So I've got, Todd does this whole training on mindset. I was like, man, I wish my parents saw this, and some of my coaches and some of my pitching lesson parents saw him explain why I think the way I think, because he understood, because he was at a higher level. Yeah. Because we understand mindset, and we understand there's a gap in between. Until you fix the way you think, the gap does not come together.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Say more about that.
So, like, when we're trained, we had to practice and practice. So, like, Todd was told he wasn't going to go back up to the major leagues unless he learned his slider. They sent him to another country one summer. They were not going to bring him back up unless he learned his slider. Do you know that for him to fix the gap, to stay where he was, he had to learn the slider. Do you know that every third pitch he had to throw the slider? He got booed out of the stadiums.
What?
Game after game after game.
Like they told him he had to throw the slider?
He had to throw it every third pitch because he went to play in another country, summertime, to be ready for, spring or winter or whatever they do their practicing. But they sent him, and they said, do not come back without your slider. So he had to learn, like, it's all mindset. Could you imagine? He left every night and they're booing him because, he can't throw the slider, but he's got to learn it. But he learned it. He learned it because he knew that that's what he had to learn and do. So he's there to learn. He wasn't there to, throw a perfect game. He was there just to learn the pitch. Wow. So being booed out of the stadium, even though they were booing him, he knew there was a higher purpose. He knew his goal was, I want to be in the major leagues. I don't want to get bumped back down. Yeah. I'm told I have to do this. I have to practice. The only way I'm going to get practice is playing in another country with another team against them. Wow. So, like, when you sit there, he said, you've got to narrow that gap. You've got, you know what I mean? So you can't get there if you can't walk across it. Yes. You know what I mean? If there's nothing there to bring the gap together, that's what he had to learn.
Being willing to do that.
Yes, he had to understand it was for learning. Was it uncomfortable? Absolutely. So when he sat there and talked about that, and I'm like, man, I wish my parents saw this, or the coaches and like the ones I would work with and stuff. Like, you don't see the full picture. So when I tell the girl to do something, there's a reason behind it. Yeah. And sometimes it's not all about the win. Mm. It's about the growth and the experience and getting them to be uncomfortable to overcome it.
So you can't you can't close the gap unless you're willing to be uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Is that where it lies?
Yeah, that's where it lies. Okay. You have to. You can't learn if you don't get out of your comfort zone. Yep. I do stuff that I don't like to do. I think the last time I've done a podcast has been over a year and a half. It's been a while. Like, it's just getting yourself out there. And the thing is, just because someone feels a certain way about you doesn't mean it's true.
Okay.
So, like, when people judge you and they don't understand what you're doing, I have people ask me all the time, well, I see you, I don't understand what you're doing. Well, at the end of the day, you really don't have to understand, unless I want you to buy my book. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You don't have to understand my mission, my vision, my values. You really don't, unless you're going to be an advocate with me or want to be along on my journey or be someone that we're going to work supporting me and work together, or you need to learn from me. it really doesn't matter what you think, because at the end of the day, as long as I know I do what's right for me and my family, and I know that I'm hitting my passion and I'm ethical and I have my values and I'm doing what's right, nothing else matters, because I know me. I know that I'm doing what I love to do.
That is amazingly beautiful. I mean, it's so powerful, because I think one of our human tendencies is for people to approve.
Yes.
And so to get their approval, they need to understand. And so then we work extra hard to try to explain ourselves, or to try to make sure everyone likes it and approves of it. And then it doesn't happen. Life does not happen.
We asked the other night when we did training, we asked the staff, when you fail, how do you feel? And one of them said embarrassed. And you forget about that, because it's been a long time since I really felt embarrassed. You know what I mean? It's been a really long time. I was thinking about that.
So much.
I practice so much to overcome that and not be embarrassed when something happens. And sometimes it does happen if it's something ridiculous. Yeah. But for the most part, but then I remind me, they're younger. Yeah. They're in their late teens or early 20s. Yeah. They haven't had the experiences I've had. I'm old enough to be their mom. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I have to remember, okay, so how am I going to get them over, like, if they do something in the classroom that is like minor, not that big of a deal, but they're still embarrassed over it. Yeah. Like, what do you do to help your employee or your coworker? Because a lot of people don't think about that. Instead of helping them, they judge them. They don't. They're more to tend to judge, because after coming off of COVID and society has been so different, we've lost some of our social skills. Our social emotional skills are just not all there with relationships. And so when she said that, it made me think back, like, wow, like, I didn't think about her saying embarrassed. Yeah. I had another one say upset, that was a normal response. But when she said embarrassed, that like triggered me, because I was like, I really need to work on figuring out how they can overcome being embarrassed. But then you have to remember, it goes back to family dynamics and how they were raised. Yeah. That's the other thing. When you have a worker come into your environment and you're in the childcare world, sometimes they discipline different than what we're allowed to in the childcare world. Yeah. We're not allowed to do a lot of different things. Right. And that's why it's really important to fix the licensing rules to make sure all 50 states are equal. But you can't do it federally. You have to do it state by state. Wow. It's individual, because they're in control of their own state. Okay. So that's why it's so big for me to learn how to speak correctly, how to get my message under 3 minutes or 3 to 5 minutes in case they have questions. Like, how am I going to answer so they understand why it's so important to fix the rules?
How do you go about, do you have to go to each state and talk to
Yeah, so like I was on vacation training for 40 hours, 10 hours a day.
Vacation? Hold on.
Well, I wasn't on vacation. Okay. Let's say first half of the week I was on vacation with my family, then I went into training. Okay. So I went into my mastermind, and that was when it was 10 hours a day for 4 days. Wow. And so that was the second half of my week. So yeah, I just start off with vacation. So I do have to have balance and family time. So that's really hard, because my family was pretty upset when they found out we're going for Florida for spring break, and they thought we were going somewhere else. And I'm like, I got training. But we made it work. Awesome. And so what happened was, I go there and I've got to train for 10 hours a day, and I'm talking to them, trying to figure out how this all works. Well, while I was there, our state of Missouri had the opportunity for me to go talk at the same time, but I couldn't go. You go up into the Capitol, they have a session for childcare. You can go up and, talk about what you want to change and what rule and present and stuff. Okay. So I really wanted to go, because the first time I want to watch. I kind of want to watch and get the flow of it and see, because I like to do my research on everything and understand. And sometimes the rules that they're advocating for are not going to be my rules, because remember, I did in-home childcare too, not just center. Right. So I see two sides of it, where they may be going in for a rule to support the workers. I may be going in the rule to protect the family and the kid. Yep. That's not out there. So my rules that I'm going to be changing may be a little bit different than what they're looking for, because I'm looking for the safety. Yeah. I'm looking for the communication to be better between the state and the child care workers and the family, and the education's not the same. That was the other thing when I figured out education is not the same. Like for me in Texas, I had to have 12 kids in my house. I had to have a director's certificate Wow. Just to have 12, so which meant I had to go back and do 20 hours of business management. I had the early childhood education in my college.
Okay.
I did not have the business side of it.
Okay.
But when I came to Missouri, you don't need the business side.
Oh.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So like, how can you run a childcare center or an in-home daycare where they respect you if you don't have the credentials to show it?
Right.
So my in-home was ran like a business, but a lot of my following, they struggle with that.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but some of them, they struggle. They've been doing it for 20, 30 years. And the other thing that landed in my lap was giving a financial advice. What we found was 3 years ago when my friend did a challenge, my following signed up for her challenge. And she called me up and she goes, because this is my year 3, I'm about to start. 2 years ago, she goes, you have a following. Yes, Terry, I have a following. She goes, they just signed up for my financial stuff that you're helping me with. Yes, Terry. She's like, I don't understand. I said, what do you don't understand? Do you have a following? Yes, I know. You just told me I had a following. And she's like, but you need to activate it. You need to get them activated and on board, and you really need to start training. You know your stuff. What are you doing? But I think that comes to being like, it's not that I know I couldn't do it. It was finding the time and getting over that uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable because this is all new to me.
Yeah.
I had to hire a social media team this year. That's new to me.
Okay.
I have to figure out who's doing what job. That's new to me.
Yeah.
Like that to me, like in technology, that's uncomfortable to learn.
Yeah.
Like you showing me how you do this. I'm like, yay, I've learned something new today. We've accomplished. I can go home and no, I still have to go to work today. But you know what I mean? Like,
yes, yeah.
That's a win for me. I got to see how you do this.
Cool.
So like with Terry, she was just like, I don't understand. So year 2 rolls around. Have I really activated my stuff? No, that was last year. I did a little bit. But what happened was now my following is not the childcare world because I'm giving financial advice. Now it's my kids' friends, parents.
Okay.
People I used to work with locally and stuff. I find out I have people that don't talk on there. And like I'd run into them and be like, oh, I'm doing your envelope challenge. So what happened was I got in trouble last year by Terry because I decided, well, I'm going to make this fun because we were saving a lot of money a week. And a lot of people can't save that much money, especially if you're staying at home, you're doing childcare.
Yeah.
And so what I did was I played an envelope thing. So you label 1 through 100 envelopes. So you label all your envelopes, or you can buy a kit online, which I showed on Amazon. And she was like, okay, now you're doing an envelope system? And I said, well, here's the deal. My following can't save $250 a week. Or they can't save, their income level is not my income level or your income level. And I know my following really well. So what happened was Terry had to change her challenge because of me. You're welcome. And so it ended up being a fun game. So every week I'd pull 2 envelopes. If I was traveling, I would do bingo balls. Hey, it works. And then I'd go find the envelope when I got home or find one close to if I already pulled the envelope. But I played a game with it. And then every week I'd give ways over the last 20-something years of how I actually do stuff differently and think outside the box about how to save money. Well, everyone wants to save money.
Right. Yep.
Finance is such a big deal, especially since COVID and stuff.
Yep.
So again, I had a following, but what I found out is like, I had one lady tell me, it was one of my kids' friends' parents, if it wasn't for you, I had to pull my envelopes halfway through. They had a medical emergency. She goes, but I would have never had the money if I had not been following you.
Wow.
Then I had another one. She's like, you're not going to believe this. I said, what? She goes, we're doing 2 envelope systems. He's got one, her husband and I do. And they're paying for their vacations now in cash.
That's awesome.
So I've changed their lives in ways because it's there as an emergency fund, but you can pay off credit cards, debit cards, all that stuff that you don't think about that comes up, or you have that emergency.
Yep.
And so this year I'm doing it again. I'm about to start my 3rd week. I'm supposed to go on another podcast and talk about it with Terry.
Awesome.
Because she's always shaking her head. But this time around, because I did have a provider last year that was in-home daycare, she did 1 through 50 and only pulled 1 envelope a week. And there's 52 weeks, so she could pull an extra 2. When I do the 100, I always go back and pull an extra 2 each week. So, because in 50 weeks, you save $5,050 if you do that envelope system. $5,050.
Wow.
That's like telling, because put the envelope aside and don't touch it. You don't even think about it.
Yeah.
And then if you did the 52 weeks like me, I pulled an extra 4. I saved like $5,250 something dollars. Like it just builds. Well, this year, anyone that did the 1 envelope, I encouraged them to do 2 envelopes. So my in-home daycare provider, she's going to pull 2 every week because she proved to herself that she could do 1. Now she's building on top of that. That's positive habit stacking. That's good. Yeah. We want that. That's just like with the other stuff I was talking about. When you mess up, you try to find the good and do the positive habit stacking to increase your experiences. So now she knows she can pull 1 envelope a week. Her goal now is 2 envelopes a week to get to $5,050 because, you know, when she did half, it was way less than that.
Yeah.
Now, I'm on my 3rd year. I'm doing all that, but then I put the challenge out there to do $35 a week.
There you go.
On top of that.
Okay.
So that was just under $2,000 when I added it up. And that $35, you have a choice. You can put it in savings where there's interest, or you can find a way to invest it that you feel comfortable with. I'm not going to give that type of advice because that's not my realm. I don't have licenses in that. But I'm going to challenge them. Think outside the box. But when I do these challenges, I give them ways of how they can make money. Like me, I teach fast pitch on the side. Do you know, I don't get my nails done unless I give a pitching lesson. That is like...
That's your rule for yourself?
That's my rule for myself. Because like people see I have the daycare center and I have all these other businesses, but they don't understand. That's the daycare center money. That's not all my money. Yeah. That's the money to protect my workers. Yep. That's my money to make sure they get what they need. We just got brand new turf off a grant. Awesome. Like, because of what I do, everything's to protect each other. When our state had raised minimum wage for 5 years, I was practically crying that night that passed. I had to call a friend in Texas and be like, what was that book I was supposed to read 6 months ago? She said, Profit First. I went back and read that book. Halfway through, I was crying. I had to restructure my business, but you know what? I survived COVID because I did that 5 years prior.
Wow.
I survived it. Because of minimum wage going up, well, it was probably like 3 years prior, but I survived COVID. Yeah. Who would have thought us raising minimum wage forced me to go back about a book 6 months prior, read the book, take my tax returns, do all the charts, and realize where I was losing money.
Wow.
Talk about like learning. Yeah. Like that was to me like, holy cow, I'm a spender. Holy cow. You know, is it a want or a need? So that aligned with me realizing when I did Terry's challenge and we find out my following, and then she's picking up people for her financial advice stuff, like it just spiraled, and so now I get financial advice too. You're welcome.
Full circle.
It's like a full circle though, but you don't realize, you don't know what you don't know until you start talking about it.
Yes.
Like what I did that I thought was normal every day is not normal for someone else. Yep. And I'm not a penny pincher. It's just that I look at it differently now, especially after reading that book, and I evaluate, do I really need it? If I go back 5 times, maybe then I should buy it. You know what I mean? If you're really thinking about it. But sometimes that impulse control needs to stop. And a lot of people in life make decisions out of their emotions. Yes. When you make a decision out of your emotions, it's never, majority of the times, never a good decision. Right. You need to like stop, take a breath, give it 48 hours. And that's what they talk about. Is it a want or is it a need? And so when that happened, that was like a whole nother piece. So this last week, I picked up a brand new mentor for social media. So I had the 3 people underneath of me. I'm trying to figure out. And she looked at my stuff and she said, listen. And I said, what? And she goes, I don't understand above the stands. It sounds like a sporting event.
You're like, I like sports. Come on.
I like sports. I teach fast pitch. What do you expect? My kids play football and basketball and baseball. But like with that, she said, you know what? As I explained, it means minimum standards. It's going above the standards. Like in the childcare world, a lot of people would understand. Once I start explaining my mission that's written out, you know, and my vision and what I want to see and what I want to see fixed. And then she said, let's just put a tagline with it. Let's find it to make it a little bit more, you know what I mean? Because I've gone viral on TikTok. I've gone viral 3 times on TikTok under Above the Stands. Like it's under Christine Baird Cares. Like in... You know, it's funny on TikTok, like when I got taped professionally for 2.5 hours, the TikTok that went viral was my second video. Well, I didn't explain the whole thing, so I'm getting slammed about crazy stuff about a tea light. Who thought a tea light would cause so much commotion? But I'm really good at it. Over 300,000 views. It's gone viral multiple times of how I found a different, unique way to put kids down for nap.
Wow.
But what happened was I went to a chamber meeting, a different one. It was a morning breakfast. And I had just gone viral that Tuesday. I went Friday morning. And this lady, I'm like, well, what do you do? And she tells me she works out in Oklahoma. She's a chamber. She tells me the place she's a chamber member at, and she's there to talk because they're hosting the breakfast, And I'm sitting there, and then I said, she goes, what do you do? And I said, well, I advocate in the childcare world, and I own a daycare center, and I just went viral on TikTok over a tea light. And she looked at me and she goes, you're the tea light girl. And in my head, really? I thought, now right now I'm only at 100,000 views. I'm like, she saw me. And she's in Oklahoma and I'm in Missouri. And she goes, you're the tea light girl. And I'm like, yes. And because I didn't know what her reaction would be. Do you know what she told me? Her child was 3 years old, ADD. ADHD. They had not been able to get her child down for bed for weeks at night. They went and bought the tea light. They supervised. The tea lights on the back, the ones I buy, do have screws in them, so they cannot undo them. That was one of the feedback. They can get to the battery. No, they cannot get to the battery. They're supposed to be supervised. In my world, we have to supervise at all times. So anyway, she put the tea light out. She goes, he was out within minutes. She said it was just that focus. It's not that we're trying to take away the natural light or anything like that, but I didn't have time in that video to explain the whole process of how we use it in the classroom, and only a few kids get it, and once they fall asleep, it goes to the next kid. But it's to get them to calm the body down. Sometimes that motor's going, and in the video, I even said, those kids that are ADD, ADHD, well, you know what? I'm the teacher. I have their file. I know which ones are diagnosed. Let's be real. So I got slammed for diagnosing. I wasn't diagnosing. I was given a tip to help. It helped with the other kids too that don't have anything. Sometimes you just need that extra tool in the toolbox. And we don't use them every day. So it was really interesting to see people's perspective. And a negative person that complains all the time is always going to complain. And that, and my social media person, when it happened that was like 2.5 days in, dropping all these TikToks and these videos that were professionally taped. And she's like, stop looking at them. Stop responding. And she's like, just let it go. Just kind of let it go. And then it went viral again when I was in March. It went viral again, and then it went viral again because they start fighting with each other and they boost my numbers, which we thought was really funny. So cool. Like, who would have thought, though? I met the one person, it helped her family, the tea light. Beautiful. And that one person, that's all it was for. It was to help that one person that was struggling. And I had other ones talk about it. And then I had the ones that are like, oh, they're just going to chuck it across the classroom. Well, you know what? Then maybe you need to work on your classroom management. Maybe I have tips for you and what we can do with 1, 2, 3 magic or conscious discipline. Maybe there's tools that you need before you could introduce something like this. Wow. That's the thing, is like they don't see the whole picture. They don't see the dynamics of the environment and how it plays a factor in it and stuff.
It's not just that. You have an entire system, an entire ecosystem. I'm like, I kind of wish I was a kid.
Do you know how many people are like out of state? They're like, we wish we came and worked for you, because they're like, you understand stuff that they feel that their higher, the ones that are ahead of them don't understand and stuff. But my experience brought me here. I have a really good assistant that knows what she's doing. She was trained really well on the East Coast. She's with me. We offset. I'm telling you, I'm probably more laid back than she is because she's the A personality. I am not. But when you see me, you would think I am more A personality, but it just depends on what it is. And I was taught, and this is one of the things, doing all these trainings with all these mentors, I was taught to protect my businesses, you do your money making projects first. You know what I mean? You have to do your money making first. So if I've got grants due or the food program or all this stuff, that stuff always has to be submitted first. You always make sure that to bring the money in, you stay on top of your accounts. Me and my assistant talk once a week, who's behind, who's not. And we've been blessed this last couple of years. Some of my grants, I've been allowed to pay off balances for families. Awesome. You know what I mean? So like, it's giving back. It's teaching everyone to give back. And even when we have a business, like in our area, we want to give back. So our last training the other night, we are actually doing something for the community. We are actually going to do something that we're making to give back. That's awesome. So it's just teaching the balance, because I know one of your questions you asked is like, how do you balance family and the business and stuff? I was just going to say. And there's like this whole thing. And like for me, because I played sports and stuff, I have to work out. If I don't work out, I don't feel like me.
That's your self-care.
That's my self-care, are my nails when I give pitching lessons.
If you're not watching the video, you need to go watch it because her nails are very cool.
Oh, they're white. I got flowers on my toes.
Oh.
But it's just getting to understand, like, there's family, there's faith. Even if you don't go to church, faith could be like here, relaxing and sitting outside. There's so many different ways to get faith.
Yep,
and then there's like, you know, the health part of it, you know, spending time with family. You know, we had travel baseball last year. We were in Indianapolis because my son was on the 12U team for Little League. Okay. And so that he ruined my 18-year-old's vacations last year twice. For travel baseball, he was pretty bitter.
I bet he was.
But anyways, this year was different because he's 13. Travel all got done soon. We had a whole month of July, and my not winnings, I feel like I won. You do. When you do the envelope system, you always win. My $5,200 and something went towards an all-inclusive resort in Mexico for a week.
Awesome.
We went for 7 nights, 7 days. Awesome. It was where I'd go for business. Twice I've been there for business. Okay. Of course, my family tells me that I play all the time, but you know, in reality, I'm in classrooms training and stuff. Right. But it was a time for all of us just to decompress. Awesome. It was so nice. You know, we got to see things that, you know, we had an iguana walk across the poolside. I got a video of it. Oh, cool. We had the crabs. I did not know this. I've been walking the beach every morning. This is really funny. And all of a sudden, I'm like, what is that? My husband's like, look at those things are popping out of the holes. What is that? Well, this whole time, because of my experiences down in Florida at South Padre Island in Texas, I thought the holes were for shrimping. You take tubes and you shrimp. That's what I was taught. So if I'm wrong, don't. I know nothing. So anyways, so all of a sudden I realized the day before I'd taken a picture, this is horrible, of a dead crab. And it was like this big. Well, I realize now that they were crabs. So I got my phone out and I'm videoing these crabs just running across and jumping the holes. But they would all be out and you'd get close to it and they dunk back down. It was like the, you know, like, what's that place?
They pop up.
Yeah, you pop up.
You have to hit them with that.
Yeah, I felt like I did. What is that pizza place called? You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. I know
this is horrible. We don't even know. But
anyways, be yelling it off the
it's
podcast.
like those gophers, and you feel like you're hitting them. It was like every time I got closer, but it was so cool. And I got to show my students the videos. But my experience prior was totally different. So what did I think? I thought there was shrimp in there. No, it was crabs running across the beach, jumping into holes and changing. But it was so cool to see. Like I felt like I got these new parasailing. There was someone parasailing, cool. 2 of them. I got videos of that to show the kids. Well, guess what? I'm pretty sure Scary Gary is going to Mexico now. It's already been talked about.
That's an awesome
But we have
idea.
a Christmas one coming called the Very Merry Gary Christmas.
Oh my God,
it's like a tongue twister.
Amazing.
That one has not been written yet, but that is also going to have a craft in it for that I used to do with the kids that we gave to the local nursing home for assisted living. Oh. Talk about giving back. Yeah. Like everything I do, like I think about it, Haley and I, my assistant, I always tell her everything we do has to have a purpose behind it.
Awesome.
There's a purpose for why we do what we do. Yep. And if something doesn't work, we just change it next time. Even when we do trains, if something doesn't go over well, we just change it. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's okay. I don't expect everything to run smoothly. Yeah. You know, I do own a daycare center. I know every day is never duplicate.
That's true. Maybe that's why you do so well with flexibility and just, okay, riding that one, won't do that one again.
Yeah, like, you know, and I'm like my new mentor, this one's to accelerate me quicker just because I have the following. I'm still picking up following. And it's just helping because I want to fix the licensing rules. But I wrote a goal. We were told to write a goal that will last a lifetime.
Wow.
This goal is going to last a lifetime because I kept maxing out. She's like, you got to find something a lifetime. Okay. You max out. So what are you going to do to get there? Like, what do we have to do to get you there? Like, what are you going to train in this world? Are you going to do, you know? Yeah. And I'm going to tell you, my mentor, this is funny, and Rita, my friend Rita would understand this. When I was in Colorado 2.5 years ago, and I said, maybe I shouldn't train in the childcare world. Maybe I should do a book about a squirrel. No, Christine, stay on your path. So I see Rita this last year at training, and I said, hey, Rita, remember when we were 2.5 years ago? I wanted to do shirts with a squirrel on it and all that stuff. And now I have a book. And I have socks. I have socks with the cover of the scroll on the cover. The sock matches it. It says Scary Gary and the Super Sock on a sock because a sock line landed in my lap from another business that I had to pull. And I had to downsize and get rid of. And I learned from that business because it was the first time I had business partners. So I learned what worked and what did not work. I learned that communication is the key. Your business partner has to answer the phone, number one. But what I'm saying is, like, you learn.
Yeah.
And so because I had this sock line and 3 sets of it, I had to decide, what am I going to do? Well, I have money sitting right there. So we're opening up a sock boutique. We're putting the socks in there. But because of that relationship, I got a kid's sock made for the book.
Wow.
Not only that, I made an adult, and the sock's going into Spanish just like the book to build the brand. And in the book, it does talk about me, and it does talk about me doing this for the childcare world, to advocate and to bring in money, to help me travel, to help me go into legislation, to help me, because the more I go in and the more we give back, the more we get the rules fixed, the safer our kids are going to be and our grandkids are going to be. Yeah. And I talked about this one time in one of my videos when I was going live a lot.
Yeah.
I talk about we have to take care of them when they're young because they're the ones taking care of us when we're older. I mean, so if we treat them like crap, we're going to get treated like crap.
Yep.
I don't want to end up in a nursing home and I got someone that has no empathy. So we have to teach it now. Wow. And that's why we have to make sure the rules are in place and the curriculums are in place that teaches social emotional and teaches relationships and teaches that failure is okay and that we can help each other and to give back because they are essentially going to be taking care of us.
It's true.
And so you don't want that.
Yep.
That's why it's so important to make sure that the next generations, this stuff all gets fixed. The sooner we get it fixed, then we can go on to the next one and the next one. It's a cycle. Yeah. And then you pass it on to the next one. So when we worked with Todd Stottlemyre, the one thing that we did was we had to write our obituary. Of course, mine was very colorful. And
I love it.
My dad told me that it would cost a lot of money to put it in the newspaper. He goes, I don't even know if we can afford it. Oh, it was hilarious. He was just, but I talked about, I really have reached all my goals except for the licensing one. Yeah. And I talked about, like, if I pass now, I do feel good because I do feel like I have left a legacy in a way because I do have people that follow me. They do know my mission. They do know what I want to change. My family knows what I want to change. Yep. I have the books there and, and we plan on building the brand and writing multiple books and have an illustrator that's willing to help me. But the one thing in it was I wanted to have a wake and I wanted them to play the Spirit in the Sky. Like I knew and I talked about it and I talked about if you didn't know this, you're going to know this now. I dress up a lot in the childcare world. Like, that's awesome. I used to do funny videos a lot, and I just had someone the other day like, I haven't seen your funny videos, and I was like, yeah, I really need to go back and do that. But the funny videos started a lot because of COVID. That's what I was going to tell you earlier. I forgot. I got sidetracked with my crazy stories. But my mentor, when we got back in the country, had shut down. We had just got back training with her, and she's like, we're supposed to be building our brands. Well, I got in trouble for not building the childcare world brand because I was in groups where I could pull in a following stuff. So that's when I built my following. I went from 500 to 3,000 or 3,500. Right now I'm at like 4,200 followers in the childcare world. Wow. And so I worked on really building my brand, but one of the things she had us do is we had to do dares. Well, they didn't know my personality because they only saw me for 3.5 days in Mexico. And then we had one in the group that was an ex-actress, and then there was some other ones. Well, me and her, for some reason, our videos shot through the roof with numbers. Like I was Steve Martin in one, and I had to, I can't remember, I had to do something with another language, so I pulled the Pink Panther up with Steve Martin, and my son's videoing me, and I've got a mustache on, and I'm wearing my husband's suit, and I'm like actually like learning how to say I'd like to buy a hamburger. And so and then I did I Love Lucy, the pizza scene in my kitchen. Oh my God. And so I did all these dares, and so my dares were just outside the box creative. So So, I mean, I had people laughing and doing all this crazy stuff. I did the Muppets where he does the spaghetti scene.
Yeah.
I mean, and the spaghetti starts moving at you. And we use fish wire for that, fish line. And my husband did that, and he's like rolling it, and it's like moving, and I'm like, because I was the Swedish chef.
Okay.
So, like, we just did some really fun, because I was like, we're really going to go outside the box. I did video with me vacuuming and hula hooping at the same time. I got banned in like 500 countries because of Chevy Chase and the Twist. Like, but you know what I learned? Like, I had to get home my mentor. I'm like, I just got banned in 500 countries. And we're laughing. And he goes, okay, well, you go to this site and you get your music from here.
Yeah, okay.
So you don't get banned. You know, like, I learned something that day from that video.
That's awesome.
Like all that stuff just helped me propel and stuff. And like I said, so like Halloween, I always dress up. Last year, I was Velma from Scooby-Doo. I've been Flo from Progressive twice because we had the Progressive vehicle at our house. So I've been on the internet for Progressive on their inside websites when I become Flo.
Awesome.
I've been Queen of Hearts. I've been Cruella DeVille. Like, people look for my costumes every Halloween. I've been Mary Poppins. And I've already picked mine this year. Just wait. It's good. I told my husband, I think, and I'm not Barbie. I'm not doing the Barbie craze right now. But I am going to tell you, in my book, my illustrator, Izzy B, the other day was telling me, he's like, you really need to jump on. We have the glitter gang, not the Barbies, the glitter gang. And Scary Gary runs into the glitter gang on the playground. So if you're out, you need to just go on Amazon Prime and find the book under C.G. Baird. But if you're into the Barbies, the glitter gang's there for your kids. So anyways, it's just step by step, all those experiences. So like, I have a friend that's in tribal out of Oklahoma. Her daughter follows me. She's giving it a video lately, but it's just bringing that joy back and the positivity and knowing that failure is normal. It's normal. It's part of life. It's normal, and that's what you want. And I know that's hard for people to hear because that's not what they've been told growing up.
Right, exactly.
They've been told, no, you have to be perfect.
Yep.
No one is perfect.
Right.
Except for my nails. But you know, like I'm saying, you know, like you have to learn to laugh at yourself. You have to get over all that stuff. So one of the things that I want to tell everyone that I do, and I was trained in the scrolls by Og Mandino, and I hope Danelle's not seeing this because I cheated. So at first we got the PDF of the scrolls, and you're supposed to read the scrolls 3 times a day. And the last time of the day, you read them out loud for a month, and you do the scroll 1. And then you do the next one 3 times a day. The last one's always read out loud for the next month. Okay. So there's 10 scrolls. Well, Christine does the scrolls. I'm on my 4th or 5th round. Yeah. I can't even keep track. I've been doing them so long. It's all about mindset. And in the scrolls, it teaches you to laugh at yourself. Aww. The one I'm on right now, I will love the world. I'm nature's greatest miracle. Aww. It teaches you, and every time you do the scroll, you find something new because you've grown. If you take and apply the scrolls, so I cheat. That's why I want Danelle seeing this. I listen to my scroll on YouTube. And you just type in Og Mandino, scroll 1, and it'll tell you what you're talking about and stuff, and what you're focusing on. I will multiply my value 100 times is one of them. Wow. Like, it's all different life experiences, and it's from The Greatest Salesman. And if anyone wants to do anything to improve themselves, it would be get that book. It would be get a mentor. It's a book. Read the books and get the mentors. Yeah. You have to grow, and the only way to succeed, if you have a goal that you really want, is to learn. You have to try and learn. You have to take what you learn and, apply it. I think a lot of people get scared to apply it, like me. It took me a while. Like, when I first did those live videos, oh my gosh, I'll never forget the day I accidentally went live on my personal page for Facebook. Oh, no. I thought I was on the business page for Above the Stands. Not many people watch. The day I went live was the day I was talking about my documentation and why documentation in the workplace is so important. And if something happened to you, I had a car accident, what people would need to know. Oh my Lord, I had 30 people watching. And I'm talking, and in my head, I'm like...
And you didn't realize that you thought you were just making a video, and then
it was live. I thought I was on my business page, and I was on my personal page. And at the time, remember, I just started, so I'm building my following.
Yeah.
Well, at the time, I only had like 500-some people on my Facebook page, and now I'm up to like 4,200. But the comments started coming in, and all of a sudden, I was like... And I remember telling Janelle, oh my goodness, you're not gonna believe what happened. I accidentally went live on my Facebook page, and she goes, perfect. And I'm like, no, that's not good. And no, she's like, it's great. And she's like, you're staying live on your personal page. And I'm like, what? Like, it just changed my world. That one mistake helped me.
Yeah.
And so after that, I would just move the videos over to my business page.
Okay.
But that was an eye-opener. It was an eye-opener, and I think that's why when I did the financial one, I was getting people not in the childcare world. Okay. Because my following is kind of in both. Yeah. Like, I have that separate segment, but I do other stuff. But it was just very... enlightening and uncomfortable at first. Because I was like... Because then I'm like... I knew how many people were watching me. Yeah. Like, it was just, And that back then, during COVID stuff, I was going 3 to 5 times a week live, almost every morning, Monday through Friday. Like, I remember starting in May, and by Halloween was my 100th episode that year. Wow. That first year during COVID. 100. Now I have over 200 and something. Then I have all the financial advice online. This last time, and you know what? I never had a hashtag for that first year, but this last time, that in-home provider's like, what's your hashtag? Give me your hashtag. So I could use your hashtag. So she forced me to use a hashtag. I wasn't even thinking about that. But you know what I mean?
You learn.
And the other people see stuff that you don't see. That's why having a mentor is so good, or someone with feedback.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about all of this stuff. Just so much. I feel like I could basically write down everything you're saying. Then a book... And maybe that's, something I'm sure that will be in your near future of things to accomplish. But like all of these things are so valuable. The thing of, like adventures lead to experiences, which leads to growth and learning.
And uncovers your gifts.
And covers your gifts. Like, that's so cool.
And I write that in the book because I want these kids to understand, like, you're always, every day is an adventure. I just met Pippi Longstocking, the actress, the one that played Pippi back in the day. I got a picture with her, and I got her with her monkey and stuff because I was Pippi Longstocking a couple years ago. Do you know, this is a really funny story. My daycare kids, some of the older ones years back, some of them are not with me anymore, when I was Pippi Longstocking, when a character comes on Halloween to my daycare center, they think Pippi Longstocking sent them. They think Pippi Longstocking's my cousin. Oh my It's great.
That's awesome.
It is great. Like the next day I came in, the little boy goes, Miss Christine! And I said, what? And he goes, there was a girl in your office and her hair was sticking out like this. And I said, oh, was my cousin Pippi Longstocking? And he was like, yes! And my husband's like, they're going to be traumatized for years when they realize it was you. But, teaching those kids, like, it's okay to fail. If you spill at school, it's okay, but at home, it may not be okay. Like, accidents happen, and we're here to teach you to learn and grow, and we're not going to get upset because it's fixable. There's always a solution. You get a paper towel, you go clean it up yourself. It's okay. You can fix it. Yeah. It's just teaching that on to the kids. So the social emotional is so important when we're with them, and not getting upset with him, and having the self-regulation as an adult.
Yep. Yes.
Because those patterns are passed on, and getting the staff to recognize, like, it's okay. Yeah. In the workplace with me, it's okay if you make a mistake. It's learning to give your workers and your coworkers grace. Even though sometimes they may not feel it and you get frustrated with it because you've done the best you can or did as much as you could for them. They may not recognize it now, but they may down the road.
Right.
Because I've had them come back and be like, I didn't realize. And I had one thank me. So you don't know who you're really impacting because sometimes it doesn't come full circle until years down the road.
Yep.
So
I'm just sitting here thinking that you have already offered so much value to the world. Like what you're doing, what you have done in all the previous years up to now, like maybe you haven't, reached the legislating goal, and I'm sure you will, but like, good grief, Christine, what you have already done has already made such a huge impact. and your heart for kids, I can see that it's just overflowing out of you. Your love for people so much, and just being able to care for people in such a beautiful way. To me, it's stunningly beautiful. And everything that you have already offered to the world and already changed up to this point has been immensely valuable contribution that you have made. And I know you're just going to keep plugging.
Yeah.
And you're going to keep going forward and doing more and more. But I wanted to thank you from this side of things, of saying this is incredible. What you have done already is just mind-blowing. And it's only going to get better from here.
Well, I'm excited. We do have a huge book company looking at the book already, and they know it's going into Spanish.
Awesome.
And so and we have a local bookstore that wants to get into their wholesaler. And so it's just making the connections and finding the people that have the same mission and vision as you, because you have to align. That's one of the things a lot of people, when you're working with other people, is your mission, vision, and values have to align to work together. If they don't align, it's not going to work out. And so I had to find the right people with the right passion that want to do the same thing I want to do. So that's what I've been seeking out, and it just falls in your lap. And I feel when you're ready, it will come.
Yes, that's right.
All those years forcing it, I wasn't ready, but now looking back, I'm ready.
It's prepared you.
It's prepared me.
You're at that spot to where.
Yes.
So how can we support you? I will put all of her social links at the bottom of the show notes. So just maybe you can just tell us them, and then I'll also put them down below. And
So I am on Facebook under Above the Stands, LLC. That is the business one for the childcare world. And then my personal page, we ended up switching it to a business page, so you can follow me on Christine Baird. And then I'm on TikTok for Christine Baird Cares. The author page on TikTok is CG Baird, and that's where you can follow me about the book. The book is also in Above the Stand links and stuff. If you go into Above the Stands, you can click a button. You can buy the book as a gift or keep it for yourself to remind you about adventures. But every time someone purchases that book, that helps me get out there into the childcare world.
Where's the best place to purchase this book that helps you the most?
If you go to AboveTheStands.com.
AboveTheStands.com.
Because you'll go through, that's the paperback, and that's on Amazon Prime. That's on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
And then we're setting up right now where it'll be sold through the hardback will be sold through my boutique, my sock boutique.
Okay.
So that one is Socks of Our Times, and that is a Facebook page, and we will be eventually setting up the links because they're working on the website right now.
Okay.
And that will be open in October, and they'll be able to order online. And
is it an online boutique, or is it?
It's going to be both. It's going to be a brick and mortar and an online boutique.
In Joplin?
In Web City.
In Web City.
Yes.
Super cool.
Yes. So it'll be both. It's all that stuff ties together between the squirrel sock and the book, and then my illustrator will have his books there and stuff. Yeah. He has a mission too that he's working on. Awesome. And so our biggest thing is just giving back. And then I have an Instagram, and that's Above the Stands too. Okay. And so we will be opening up my author pages, and then my sock will go into all three of them too. I do have a YouTube.
Does the sock come with the book? You buy the book right now?
You have to buy them either separate or together. If you get a discount, you buy them together. You do have the option.
Is the option for the Spanish and English?
The Spanish is not out yet. We just got translation over the weekend. This week the illustrator has to put it into format, because when you do Spanish into English, the sentences are a lot longer.
I didn't think about that.
Because they have to. Because the way their language is, I remember when we were on our way back from Mexico talking to the driver to the airport, and my son was trying to translate something, and he's like, no, you have to add this in front of this because of what it was. It's a he or she pronoun or whatever. Yep. And he was talking about that, and he's like, you were close, but you have to put this here and swap it. So so that's what she said. Sometimes it's not the exact translation, but it's the closest they can get it to. Yeah. So so he's got to format that, and then it will be sent off to get printed. So I will be printing in Spanish because I do have a local school district that we are going to help.
And eventually that will be available on AboveTheStands.com.
Yeah, everything will be available. Okay. Yeah, we will have it set up for everything will be available. And then they'll be able to order. And like I said, the paperbacks right now are on, they will always, so that paperback will end up on Amazon. It's the hardbacks that we print here in the U.S. that come to me. So like right now I've got 2,100 hardbacks that came in, and I have 1,200 pairs of kids' socks with Scary Gary on it. Oh yeah. Oh no, there's more coming. I'm like, my poor husband and my illustrator, they're just like, your ideas. And I'm like, I know. You're welcome. I know. But I mean, how much fun is it going to be for the kids to follow a squirrel that has adventures, you know, but you're still learning something. And I still want to do Scary Gary and the Super Shock, because we had stuff happen at the daycare center with electricity in the building. And I do have a whole live video on that too. Like I said, I have enough content to last a lifetime at the rate I go. But the kids are so funny, and they're so loving. And like the other day, my illustrator came because he has a Kickstarter going on, and to read his book for Kickstarter to the kids and stuff. And he got done, and they just swarmed and hugged him. Aww. Like, you know, and when you have that bond, this is one of the things I look at. When you're in a classroom and the teacher walks in, if the teacher has a bond with kids or certain kids, you will know they're there hugging them. Yep. They want that connection. They know they are safe, so when something happens, they will go to them. So when you see kids drawn to certain people or certain workers, or, you know, and I don't expect everyone to be drawn to everyone, because that's not how life works. Let's be real. We know that everyone's personalities are different. But when you got a majority of your class going to a teacher and stuff, you know you made the right pick. You know that this was the right decision and stuff. If they're all hands off, you know, okay, maybe I need to make a change or put them in a different classroom that fits them better. Because I only put teachers in classrooms I feel they're going to thrive. If they're not going to thrive in a classroom, why would I set them up for failure? You know, you want to set your workers up for success. But there is times though you still need to make them uncomfortable, because like I have one right now I made a little bit uncomfortable, and I said, listen, you went from 40 hours to 30 hours. The job I have for you is in this classroom for 30. If you'd have to go back to work in 40 if you wanted that room. That's the give and take they have to learn. And in life, that's how it is. You know what I mean? I make a business decision. It's a business, it's not personal and stuff. But no, I'm excited for my new adventure. There's always something going on. Always check me out on abovethesands.com. You know, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. I'm there. I do have YouTube. It is a lot of my older videos. So if you wanted to go back and watch my first 200 and something videos, my first ones aren't the best. You know what my mentors told me? They told me to bury it. If you don't like your video, you better keep taping and bury the next video. You just bury your videos. So 300 something later, you know, but you can't get better if you don't start.
That's right.
You have to start somewhere.
You can't get better if you don't start. Oh my gosh. You guys, I know you have loved today as much as I did. This was an incredible conversation.
Oh, thank you.
I love learning from you. I like
being out here. I don't want to go home.
That's my goal. Yes. That's success for me.
It's called Hen Haven. She even has a sign out here. I mean, it's Christine's Haven. My husband's like, where are you going? I'm going to my haven. He's like, oh.
That's right. You know what? It's interesting because the name of our farm is LOL Haven. And our whole goal for bringing the Haven in is, I said, you know, more than anything, the LOL is laughing because I love having fun. Like that's my coping skill. It's my favorite thing. But I was like, I want a place where people come and they can feel peaceful. You know, where they feel safe and peaceful. And if people feel those two things, like amazing things happen. It's when we live in a space of like fear, anxiety, that we can't grow and learn. And so it makes me happy to know that you feel peaceful.
Oh, I love it here. It's so quiet. I walk in the daycare center, they're like, Miss Christine!
Oh, yeah, I know.
And you're like,
I'm sure.
Give me 5 minutes. And the best part, oh my gosh, one day they painted, and I look over and I got a print on my hip. And I am like, and I'm going to have to go change. I have a meeting. Because you just, like I said, you never know when you go in. This is a really funny story. We had a worker one time she had college courses at night, but she had to go in the baby room that day. She gets in class, and they're like, what's on your shoulder? She looks over, a kid had spit up all over her shoulder, and she had no idea. So ever since then, she brought an extra shirt.
When you work at the daycare center, it's probably needed. Just
anything goes.
Bring extra clothes. if you take your kids to Christine's daycare centers, you never know, you might find geodes, you might
a
find
money pit.
A money
We
pit.
still haven't found it, but I don't think they're gonna be able to find it now. I put turf down. I'm like, I found a solution. They can't dig anymore.
They're going to be in something. Now it's going to be something in the sky.
I know, right? Oh no! One time I walked out, and one of my little girls was trying to launch another girl up into the pine tree because they were looking. They were looking for power tokens in the trees.
Oh no!
That's a whole nother book. I'm like, I can't make this stuff up.
No, you're going to have a very long line of books. You're never ending.
I told the illustrator, I am like,
brace yourself.
You might as well just plan on working just for me. Because I'm like, these kids, every day is something new.
It's a new adventure.
And you know, having 2 businesses of daycare centers and going down to 1 was freed up a lot of time. It's not that I didn't want the second center, it was that for me to get into where I need to go, I had to cut my work in half.
You need to have more time.
I have more time.
Yep.
You know, the center was thriving. We always have a wait list at both locations. We always find the right staff. We always find the right families.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes in life, like I've been asked to come back and do a second one. And I'm like, no. I said, my mission in life is a bigger goal.
Yeah.
And for me to get there, sometimes you have to sacrifice stuff, and that's okay. And I think people, when they have businesses, have a hard time doing that. I usually could have hired someone to take a whole thing over and run it for me.
Yeah.
But would it be part of me? No. I want it ran a certain way, the way I would want it run, and I just couldn't turn that over to someone else 100% full time when I know what my quality looks like. And so sometimes you have to make sacrifices and for the long run, for my vision and mission and values and stuff. And that was one of the things that a lot of people didn't understand why. They're like, well, it must be failing and stuff. It wasn't failing, it was thriving. It's just that I had a bigger mission in my heart and knew I was taking on too much if I kept the second one.
Yeah. That makes total sense because that could swallow you whole. I mean, you could probably have enough to open several more, and that. But that wasn't all. That wasn't you wanted to. I'm simplifying this year. My word this year was simplify. I'm making sure that all of my businesses align and simplify everything, and that was one of the hardest decisions I had to make. Was going from 115 to 120 kids down to only like 58. You know, with the school agers added in. It was like. It was hard to make a decision, but I did it because I knew that I have a path that's bigger. And I think that's also part of the important thing of self-care, knowing yourself, like not stretching yourself too thin.
Yes.
Like I want to be able to do these things and I want to be able to do them well.
Yes.
So how do I make that happen? I'm one person. So that is hard because we do want to, I think especially as women, we do want to try to do all of the things and meet all of the needs, but that's not what your bigger vision is. If you can do these, it actually meets way more needs.
Yes.
It's going to help so many more people.
Yeah, and that's so we had a long conversation about that. My husband's like, are you sure? And I'm like, I know I need to. The mentors that I've talked about it was a hard decision, but I felt like it was the right decision. And I feel like because of that, it's easier for me to say yes to other doors opening because my time has freed up and the work has cut in half.
Awesome. So you made space for it, then the doors opened up.
It's about that, like you talked, it's about balance. So I still go to all my kids' sporting events and all their stuff, and I can manage my time and I can schedule stuff and I can switch stuff around if I need to for the most part. And I still work my 40 hours a week in my business because you still have to work your business. If you have a brick and mortar, you have to work your business. And a lot of people forget about that, especially when you're new. I mean, I'm not new at it. I've had it for a long time now, but I ran it 2 of them for 6 years successfully at the same time, you know, and that's a lot for one person to do, you know, and running 24 employees. You know, and running the payrolls and running everything and doing all the behind the scenes and stuff. And I'm finally at a point where I can just breathe a little bit easier. And, you know, my kids are getting older and I just want to spend time for them. One's going to college before they're out of the house. And so it is.
I know how that feels.
Yeah. And, you know, and some people, like when I'm traveling or I'm at travel baseball, they'll be like, well, how do you get everything done? And I'm like staring at them like, I just sat here for 6 hours doing nothing. They're like, you do so much. And I'm like, I really don't feel like I do that much. But here's the thing. Bottom line, I use my time different than others. When I sit down to work, I'm working. I'm not distracted. I'm not watching TV. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. I'm not looking at my phone every 5 minutes. I have no notifications set up on my phones.
Awesome.
My phone does not ring for email, text messages, messenger, none of it. Because when I sit down to work, I get more done and I'm working.
Yep.
And that's what a lot of people don't understand.
Yes.
And sometimes, like yesterday was a catch-up day. I had to catch up from the week because I had to take my mother-in-law to a doctor's appointment. Because that's the other thing. We're responsible for my in-laws now. They have medical, both of them. So like, it's balancing that time and figuring out, okay, so I just gave up this time that I would normally be working, so now I've got to make it up on a different day.
Yep.
But I still got to do what I wanted to do. That's what those families don't understand. They see me at the ball game. I just watched 3 games. We go to championship, then you're still there all night. But you know what I mean? Like, I learned, like, you time block. Yep. My time is money. I do my money making first. Like, so my family understands. They do tease me and give me a hard time when I go to trainings and stuff, but at the end of the day, it comes back tenfold. Yeah. And it helps the family and it helps teach the kids. And when I think they're not listening, they are. They use my words against me, you know, my wisdom.
You are listening.
But you know what? My kids do, when they want something, they make PowerPoints.
Wow.
And put it on the TV in the living room.
Wow.
Now, how many kids do that?
Yeah.
Like, my own kids, like, do PowerPoints for what they want. Or one time they did for my husband. I think it was like for Father's Day or something. They decided that they were going to campaign for him. So I have weird stuff like that happen too.
That's awesome.
But, you know, it's just giving back and teaching the kids and role modeling what you want and stuff.
That's what I was going to say. Like, your kids are watching you, though, pursue your passion. Mm-hmm. Learning how to say no to things so you can say yes to things. They're watching mom, even all the trainings they teach you about, like, they're watching you do all these things to continue growing. Yes. And that's, I mean, modeling that for our kids, I feel like that's one of the biggest gifts we can give them, is for them to be able to feel empowered. I can do whatever I want to do if I put my mind to it, and I'm not afraid to make mistakes.
Yeah.
What a beautiful thing to give to your kids.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I told my husband, I would rather have a kid that has empathy than the one that has straight A's.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, the relationships are always more important.
Yes. So, yes. We give them a lot more than life.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you so much
you're
for
welcome.
coming out here.
I feel like we could be here forever.
I know.
It's like Christine's Haven.
I need to change the sign. Sorry.
I'd be dying if I came back and it was changed.
You guys, please go check her out. If you haven't heard of her, you may have already watched her TikToks. But
I don't know. I mean, watch it goes viral again, and I'll be like, here we go. My social media team would just laughing. But yeah, AboveTheStands.com. You can find me on TikTok. Christine Baird Cares. CG Baird's on TikTok. That's the author name. We did that on purpose just to separate me from the childcare world and my other stuff. So the kids can call me CG.
Okay.
Fun note, I bought Scrabble pieces, C and G earrings to wear at my presentations for author visits so they can yell, C, G, C,
G. Oh, how fun.
Yeah, so I'm excited to go out and spread my message and just travel and meet the kids and, you know, just give back to what I want to do.
Beautiful. Guys, buy her book. I'm going to have to go check it out right now as soon as we're done. Sounds super cool. Thanks for showing up this week, and we'll see you next week. Who knows what we'll have next, but apparently I have to change my sign now. So
maybe I'll come back next time hula hooping. We don't know.
That's right. You never know. Thanks again. Hope you have a wonderful week.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
All right.
If I wrote it in a song, would you believe it more? If I busted out the lock, would you open the door? If I dare to speak my truth, would you still value me? If I reach my hand to you, would you reach yours back to me? Darling, there's no reason why you should have to hide. Step out into the open air and claim your freedom waiting